My name is Barbara Grosh. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of the Rochester metropolitan area, and I'd like to welcome you to tonight's event. We have with us Cheryl Couser, and she is a co-director of New York State's public finance program. And she's going to tell us all about how the program worked in the first year of operation and what's ahead. And we are recording. This will be put up on our YouTube channel in the next day or two so that other people can watch it. So we have an unfortunate technical problem. For some reason, we can't get Cheryl's camera to work. So it's good that she has great slides. So I'm going to welcome Cheryl. Cheryl, you can talk as much as you want, 30 or 40 minutes maybe, and then maybe we can have questions after that. So I'm going to turn my camera off.
Great. Thank you, Barbara. And thank you for inviting me to talk to the League of Women Voters in Rochester tonight about New York State's public campaign finance program. I do apologize that right now my camera is not working. We've had an infrastructure update, and although I tested it earlier, it's not working now. But I do have a slide deck to present to you, and then at the end, I would love to hear any questions you might have about the program. So I'll start by introducing myself. My name's Cheryl Couser. I'm a co-director of the New York State Public Campaign Finance Board. I've been at the Board of Elections, the New York State Board of Elections, since 2008. I started as an enforcement specialist in the campaign finance unit. In 2014, I helped create the compliance unit for campaign finance. In 2017, I was promoted to Deputy Director of Public Information. And in 2021, I was appointed as co-director to build New York State's first public campaign finance program. And it's been a great honor and privilege to do so. And so far, it's been the highlight of my career. And just to go back a little further, I started my career in New York State government in 1999 in the New York State Assembly and worked there till 2008 when I went over the state board. So my presentation tonight, and I'll take a step back. I also wanted to take a moment to talk about the New York State Public Campaign Finance Board and note that it is a bipartisan board. I report to 7 commissioners. There are 4 Democratic commissioners and 3 Republican commissioners. It's the 4 commissioners from the State Board of Elections, so 2 and 2, and then there's a gubernatorial appointee, 1 from the majority of the state legislature, and 1 from the minority of the state legislature. And we work in a bipartisan fashion together and have built the program. And our board is a board within the State Board of Elections. And we were situated in the State Board of Elections to share resources. So while we will be a board of 118 staff, we do share public information resources, we share administrative resources and ITU resources, as well as the infrastructure for campaign finance software. So my presentation will provide an overview of the program, provide some statistics from the initial 2024 cycle, and then some steps and some goals that we have going into the 2026 election cycle. And if you're really interested in learning more about the program, here is the law guiding the program. So we have a great website. It's pcsb.ny.gov. On that website, you can access our handbook, primers, you can attend trainings. There's a copy of the law, and then all the payment information and board meeting minutes from the last cycle. So this slide deck will be shared with you at a later time. whenever I talk about the program publicly, I always go back to the first sentence of the legislative intent. And I like to read it out loud because I go back to this frequently as we've been building the program. The legislature finds that reform of New York State's campaign finance system is crucial to improving public confidence in state's democratic processes and continuing to ensure a government that's accountable to all voters of the state regardless of wealth or position. And that's a very strong sentence and really talks about the origin and why there was this campaign finance reform in New York State. I'm going to try to move. So the background of the program was there was a commission that was charged with making recommendations, and they made recommendations, and unless changed by the legislature, they had to force a law. And it was eventually enacted within a budget with the implementation date November 9th, 2022. The law that was enacted did two great things. It both created the public campaign finance program in the New York State, and it also considerably reduced contribution limits. The contribution limits now for statewide office, which is governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, or state comptroller, is now $9,000 for the election cycle per election. It was $47,100 per election, a considerable reduction. A state Senate primary used to be $7,500, and the general election contribution limit used to be $11,800. It's now $5,000 per election. And for state assembly, it used to be $4,700 per election, $4,700 for the primary, $4,700 for the general, and now the limit is $3,000 for the primary, $3,000 for the general. That was a considerable reduction in contribution limits. Then it also created what is now the country's largest campaign public finance program. So we cover 217 offices. It's the 4 statewide offices: governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and state comptroller. They run on a 4-year cycle. The next cycle, which we're halfway through, will be in 2026. Also covers the 213 state legislative offices, 63 in the state Senate, 150 in the state assembly. We just had the end of the 2024 cycle on November 5th, and we started our 2026 election cycle. This year, the Public Campaign Finance Board, if there are special elections, we would run this program for state assembly, state Senate, and statewide if should there be a special. So the background of the program really is to increase the engagement between voters and candidates, to have candidates spend more time in their district, focusing on their community, and also leveraging the power of the residents in your district by giving a small donor contribution and having it matched. It creates opportunities for people to run for office by eliminating a financial barrier if there was one. So as I said, it's a statewide program, and we match contributions between $5 and $250. For a statewide office, the contributor has to live in New York State. For your state Senate and state assembly offices, the contributor has to live within that state Senate or state assembly district to be matched. Now, to be in the program, we tell candidates to register a political committee as early as possible. And then they have until 4 months before the election to certify as a candidate and submit our certification form. And that's different for special elections because the timing is shorter, it's 10 days before, after the nomination is due. And once you're certified and you're in the program, you have to, as a candidate, meet a number of eligibility requirements to show that you're a viable candidate in the program to receive state funding. So you have to be able to fundraise and get a minimal number of contributors that contribute a minimum threshold of dollars. Because we're giving out public funds, there's mandatory training for the candidate and treasurer to be eligible. They have to make all their filings. They have to provide us with documentation. Because we're getting public funds and we're charged with protecting those public funds, committees have to turn their financial books over to us. We do regular bank reconciliations. We do audits. We make document demands. We look at their receipts, their loans, their expenditures to make sure the funds are being provided to committees that have met all the proper requirements and compliance standards. I just mentioned about being able to raise money from a minimal amount of contributors. This past year for State Assembly, the committee had to get 75 in-district residents to contribute, and they had to raise $6,000 of matchable contributions. There's an asterisk because there's a parameter in law that states if the census determines that that district is below the average median income, then the amount of the minimum matchable contributions would be reduced for 1/3. So that committee would then raise in the State Assembly $4,000. And we post that list on our website. And that applies to the State Senate and the State Assembly. So if they were in a minimal AMI district, in the Senate, it would be reduced to $8,000. And then as you go up in the statewide, the number of minimal contributors increases. So 1,000 contributions from the AG, comptroller, lieutenant governor, that's a statewide resident, and then 5,000 contributors for the governor. That's to show that there is a support of this candidate. I went over the contribution limit deductions, but I did put a slide here so you can see what the current limits are. Now the program does put an emphasis on maximizing the in-district resident or state resident that gives a contribution. So for statewide office, the match is a flat 6-to-1, but there's a progressive match for state legislative office. So from $5 to $50, the first $50 is essentially matched 12-to-1. You have to receive at least $5 for someone to get a match. The next $100 is matched 9-to-1, and the last $100 is matched 8-to-1, which makes a contribution of $250. You get 2,250 public matching funds. It really makes that contribution close to that $3,000 assembly limit. So you can ask someone for $3,000, you can ask them for $250, and largely it's a comparable contribution. Now, this program, you cannot give over $250 in aggregate during the election cycle for the 2 years for state legislative office and for the 4 years for the statewide offices. Should someone contribute 251 or over, if a committee would like to receive public matching funds, they either have to refund the overage, or if we paid it and they don't make a refund, we recoup those funds. A lot of people make the refund. This slide shows you the limits of what we can give per committee, depending on their fundraising for each election. So in 2024, for a primary election, the maximum amount of public matching funds a committee could receive was $175,000. And in the general election, again, $175,000. For state senate in this past year, the primary election was $375,000, and the general election was also $375,000. In 2026, the primary limit for all the statewide offices is $3.5 million. And it's the same limit for the general election, 3.5, although the lieutenant governor is merged with the governor in the general election. So $7 million total to a candidate could make them competitive. It gives them funds for statewide to run both a primary and then a general election, and same with Senate and Assembly. Let me just go back. Let's go over a couple slides about our initial findings from the 2024 cycle. So that cycle started on November 9th, 2022, and went until November 5th, 2024. Interestingly, when we were building the program, we couldn't do much media before November 9th, 2022, because we did not want to confuse candidates and committees that there could be funding in the 2022 election cycle. So immediately after November 9th, we did a 6-week media campaign. It was 3 weeks in December before the holidays, earlier in December, and then 3 weeks in mid-January to go more than social media, but large ads, Facebook, Instagram, large papers throughout the state to get the word out. And we had placed ads throughout a lot of electronic media that people could see. We also gave presentations to all the county boards, and we reached out to any candidate and committee that had an Assembly or Senate committee open, or as they opened it, to let them know of the program. And then we reached out to state and county chairs. Last year, before the certification was due in February, so in January and February, we did another media campaign, but this time we targeted local papers across the state in multiple languages where that was advisable. So we'd be in the Ithaca Times. We were out in Rochester in the Democrat and Chronicle, out in Buffalo, up in Lake Placid, Times Union in Albany, the Record, the Daily Gazette near Glens Falls. So we tried to hit all the local papers that candidates and committees might look at, the electronic versions, and really try to do a media campaign there. So our initial findings, we're actually very happy with the participation rate for the first cycle of the program in New York State. So the total 67% of all Assembly candidates that ran are in the program, and 80% of all Senate candidates that registered the political committee were also in the program. And this information, just so you know, is in a report that we recently issued about the election cycle. And I did send the link to Barbara, so I'm hopeful that Barbara can share that if anyone is interested in it. So ballot access by program participants, it was important to look at, because we want to make sure not only people who registered who were interested in running for office were successful in joining the program, but were the people who joined the program successful in submitting petitions and meeting all the requirements to run for office. And this slide shows that they were. It shows a high level of program participants being able to be successfully on a primary and successfully on the general election ballot, which is good. That meant that they had the tools they needed to navigate the process. And then we wanted to look at, of all the participating candidates that were on the ballot, so they were able to be on the ballot to run for that office, what's the percentage that received public matching funds? So on this slide, what I find is interesting is that there were in the state Senate, there were 12 program participants that were running in the primary. 100% were able to receive funding. They also had a high level of participants in the general election, 70% that were able to receive funding. And in the Assembly, it's a little lower. It's 75% were able to receive public matching funds, and then 59% in the general. And there are a couple of reasons why. Some maybe they didn't meet the threshold do receive public matching funds. Most did. We found that some people were they were either unopposed or they opted not to claim public matching funds because they didn't feel that they needed it, so they didn't submit for it. We also looked at program participation rates in the next slide. This slide is on incumbency, challengers, and open seats. The next slide, I'll talk about political affiliation. You can see here, if there was an open seat or there's a challenger to an incumbent, 77% of those people running joined this program. And incumbents also joined the program at 66%. It was a very high rate of participation. And the reason why is because of the amount of money that you could get should you have support in your community. So if you were able to fundraise from small donors in your community up to $250, again, for the state assembly primary, you could be matched up to $175,000. That's a lot of money. And in the state senate, it's $375,000. Again, a very considerable amount of money to run an election. Program participation by political affiliation shows that both of the major parties in New York State joined the program and participated at a very high level. The higher Republican participation than Democratic participation, but you have to kind of look at in this slide that there were more Democrats. So I think 70% and 74% of participation just shows that how many people did join the program this year. We had a budget of up to $100 million to spend for state legislative elections. With all the candidates that had joined and were matched. This slide shows that we spent $35 million in state funding. Now, it was $9 million, 9.3 for the primary, 25.6 million in the general. And then if you go across the state assembly, it was 6.8 million went to state assembly candidates for the primary, 10.2 million in the general election for a total of 17 million for state assembly candidates. In the state senate, it was 2.4 in the primary. Again, there were 12 candidates, 15.4 in the general election for $17.9 million. So while the 2024 cycle is over, we have post-election auditing that is just beginning. So we look at different groups. We ran a lottery that's required by law, and the lottery requires that 1/3 of all the candidates go through an extensive post-election audit, and that audit is of their expenditures. We ran the lottery, and the results are posted online. But we go above and beyond. Any committee, if they did not receive public matching funds, we do a number of audits, and then we assist them opening a new committee or terminating their committee. And then for committees that receive public matching funds and they weren't selected for the extensive post-election audit, we review all their qualified campaign expenditures. We make sure they had enough qualified campaign expenditures to meet the public funds received. We will do a surplus analysis to see if there has to be a repayment to the state of those committees. Then we do bank reconciliations. So all in all, every committee is audited, although statutorily 1/3 goes through an extensive post-election audit. But we wanted to go above and beyond the minimums in statute. In 2021, when I was appointed, we did not have space, we did not have staff, we did not have software, but we were situated in the state board, which provided us the legacy software for committee management, committee registration, and candidate reporting of campaign financial disclosure information. We hired staff that had a background in accounting, and we created a manual solution of templates to drop financial data and to do our auditing. At the same time, we put together an RFP and acknowledge that we know that we need a software solution for treasurers and candidates to have some things automated. It automates. Cheryl Couser gave this much in the aggregate. In-district checks. Are they a lobbyist? Are they a vendor? Really do all the information, all the checking that we're doing at the fingertips of the treasurer to really enhance compliance for them and make it easier. So we entered a procurement. We have a vendor. We're working on that software now. Part of it will be implemented for 2026, and then by 2028, the project should be complete. We have mandatory trainings for candidates and treasurers. We're building more and more trainings. We're looking to do smaller segments. So if there's a topic area a treasurer wants to get trained on more, they could take a half-hour training. They could take a 15-minute training on smaller topics. So we're really looking to increase our curriculum that we have available online, but then also in webinars. It's a priority that we try. We did outreach, again, to large media. We did outreach to newspapers, but we're really trying to get the word out of the program into smaller communities of people who may not be aware across the state. It's a hard engagement to do, so if anyone has ideas on how we can further drill down in smaller communities, we're open to any suggestion, but that's something we're looking at doing more and more this year. We're also preparing for special elections should there be a special in 2025. We did the preparation because it generally is a very small time frame from when it's called to when an election happens. When we have to make sure that we do outreach to the candidates, let them know the program and the requirements should they want to join. And then we're also preparing for our statewide elections in 2026. They come with a mandatory debate requirement, so we will be implementing that as well. So that's the background on the program, a background on some of the results from 2024 and what we're heading into. What I did not go into is actually how someone can register a committee, how they could certify a committee. I do have all that information on our website. But if anyone knows of someone who might want to run for office and they have questions, our website is an excellent resource, and anyone can contact me or our staff at any time. If you contact the Public Campaign Finance Board, we put a heavy emphasis on customer service, and if the call is received before 4:45 that day, it's returned that day. So if you call us as a state agency, you're getting a same-day callback, and that's even if you are a candidate, you have assigned an auditor. We place a very high emphasis on being available to help people navigate the process. So I do appreciate taking time out of your night to learn more about our program. I am apologetic that my camera is not working, although you'd see the nice suit I have on while I was presenting. And I would like to give this opportunity, if you have questions about the program or anything you would like to ask, I'm available to answer it.
All right. I hope people will maybe put up your hand if you want to ask a question, and I'll turn your mics on. I will kick us off with a couple of questions that occurred to me while you were talking. So, is there, for a candidate, is there a trade-off that they have to think about to decide whether to participate? You mentioned that next year they'll have to be in a debate, but are they giving up any rights to like accept money from people that can't be matched or people out of their districts or?
I would really tell people it's a cost benefit analysis should you join the program, but there aren't many many drawbacks if you do, because the contribution limits are the same if you're in the program or non-participating. Also, there is no spending limit, so we don't say there's a limit if you receive public funds that you could spend. So there also are no limitations from other money. So you can raise in the program or out of the program. You can ask people for their $3,000. I'll just use state assembly, for example. You can either ask for $250 and it's matched, or you can ask someone for a $3,000 contribution. You can ask PACs, you can ask unions, you can ask corporations, you can get transfers from party committees. So you're not prohibited from going to other sources to fund your campaign, but you're limited in the aggregate of the small donor contribution. The other drawback, if it's a drawback, is that we do ask for your bank records. We do bank reconciliations. We look at every dollar in and out.
Okay, so the fact that it's not 100% participation is more related to, well, some people couldn't raise enough to get in to start with, but other people might not have felt like they could comply with the.
I think some people may not have participated if they did not. Some people were registered, but then did not put their certification in because they didn't. They might have. You can look on our website and say nobody else in the district was participating. So I don't anticipate I'm going to have be primaried. I don't anticipate the general election opponent. So some cases that was the case of people not participating. They didn't feel they might have already had funds for their campaign and not needed to opt into a program.
Got it. All right, Georgia has a question. Georgia, go ahead.
Oh, I think it's wonderful that we're taking steps, that we've been thinking about for years. So that's one plus. Okay, so it's mandatory for everybody to comply with the caps. So nobody is going to say, well, I'm sticking out because I want to go more money than others. I think that's clear, right? Nobody can.
They all have contribution limit, correct?
Yeah. Then the other question is, and I think most important, is how do we spread the word? And does this applies to villages and villages and things like that? Is it that lower?
No,
lowest?
this applies to the 4 statewide offices and then the 217 played up. So it's state only. It's state assembly, state senate. So the candidates running for those offices, they generally do open a campaign committee. They have to open it at the State Board of Elections. I know we watch the registrations. If someone registers any type of committee for assembly or senate or statewide, we email them about the program and say, hey, join this program. And that's why we talk to all the county chairs. We talk to the county boards of elections and do the campaigns in the media and try to get the word out. But we're just trying to get now the word out to people who may want to run for office who aren't connected to the county chairs. They're in different networks in different neighborhoods that they might have an issue they want to run and it resonates in their community and they have support, but they just always felt there's a financial burden. So now we're looking to do more outreach there.
Okay, and the other thought is getting some statements from the people who have participated this year, like saying, hey guys, it really wasn't so bad after all. And, getting them to support your project. But anyway, thank you very, very much.
Yeah, and in terms of feedback so far, so we had a public comment period. We emailed it out to all the candidates and treasurers and some advocacy groups. It was on our website. We emailed it out to people who participated and then put it on our website. We had 6 public comments. We put those in the report. We actually made an addendum and shared the comments themselves. So that's not enough. So we're putting together a survey, a post-election survey to give to all candidates and the treasurers, and asking them through SurveyMonkey to rate different things and give us feedback. And then we're also planning, not for January or February, but later, probably March, April, public hearing to get more. People can give either written testimony, they can virtually participate, they can go to Albany to participate, but to try to get more feedback on the program. We also have a working group we implemented in 2021. It consists of people from the media who had shown interest, some treasurers, some candidates, advocacy groups like Brennan Center, Reinvent Albany, League of Women Voters, anyone who's shown interest in the software, anyone's shown interest in the program. We have them as an external working group. They've looked at our handbook when we were creating that. We brought them in about the software and said, what do you want to see in our software? Be specific. Show us examples from other software, campaign finance software. What do you like? What do you want the data to show you? How do you want the data? They gave us ideas. We compiled a list. I think we can hit all their ideas, and then we're going to show them what we can do and then have them test the software, because it's really the end user experience that matters. So when we're building something new, we have to make sure the community that uses it likes it and it's usable and it's easy to access. So that's a big initiative we have going on right now.
Yeah.
And we're trying to
Amen.
get speed. It's a brand new program. We have to make improvements. We have to make it easier for the treasurers. That's always been a goal, but another goal was to have a successful launch and get the money out for the first round without any delay, without any issue. That was a high priority too.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're
So
welcome. Thank you.
timing was that you were sending out money fairly steadily as people raised money. You were doing the matches right away.
So we're required in the primary and the general to give 3 payments before 30 days in the primary and 3 before the general. Everyone had to be certified in the program by February 26, 2024, but then they had petitioning in April. So they had to get on the ballot. The first payment for the primaries is limited to 45 days before the primary day, which I believe is June 26th. So our first payment went out May 9th. We had one, I don't have it for me. We had 5 payments ahead and 1 after. So
Let me make sure I understand. So some people who
we had 3.
didn't get on the ballot, did they get funding if they had matching? I mean,
If they were unsuccessful in getting on the ballot, you cannot get funding because you're not in an election.
okay.
But the primary timing was very limited to May and June, and then the post-election funding has to be. It was limited to 30 days after the primary. The general election, there's a little longer time to get the money out. The first payment is allowed 1 week after the primary day by state law. So we did one July 7th, one at the end of July, one in August, 3 in October, and 1 in December.
Okay.
And
So
that's the discussion people are having if they want money earlier before people make the ballot. New York City does that. That would have to be a statutory change that comes from the legislature and the governor's office.
right. I saw that 100% of the challengers qualified and got funding. So, I mean, half the intent of this program is to enable people who don't have resources otherwise to challenge. So that's interesting that the challengers do know that this is important and they do what it takes to get it, but I'm wondering, can we say that there were more challengers or that they were more successful than you would see in previous years?
Well, interestingly, so our analysis, as the program grows, after we have more cycles, we'll be able to do more on seeing how the rates from this year compare with next year and in out years.
Mhm.
So there are a high level of participation for open seats. We saw that, we experienced that. There was an open seat for assembly in Albany County, and there must have been 5 to 7 candidates. All but one were in the program. There were a couple, I think Assembly District 69 and 70 in New York City were open seats, and there were 3, 4, 5 people in the primary, all in the program getting public matching funds. So we did see that the program did help more people who are interested in running for a primary be able to get funds. And then in the general election, there also was a high rate. So it'd be interesting to see if that encourages more people to run. We did get feedback from some candidates that said they would not have been able to run for office without this program. There was an article in the Buffalo News about a seat out there, and there was an article in Suffolk County in an assembly race where the candidate said they would not have been able to run without the program. So it's good that there is a program to get financial resources to eliminate that barrier.
Yeah. And among incumbents, I wonder if you can look at what they've done in the past to get money and whether it's really changed. Like, have they stopped working so hard to get outside donations now that the local donations are matched so generously? Were you able to detect that kind of change?
That's a great point. So in the end of the year report, there are 2 things that we hadn't had full election cycle information. The report was due by January 1st, 2025, but we did not yet have the January 15th periodic report to give us some financial data that we would need. But we will be looking at on the effect of expenditures across committees and the effect of other contributions. So we are planning to look back 2018, 2020, 2022, 2024 to see how the different areas of contributions, PAC contributions, union, corporate contributions, if committees, if that level decreased, increased, and then the impact on expenditures too. So we do have more analysis that we want to do. We just didn't have full election cycle data, and I did not want to do it without the last report.
Yeah,
And the
sure.
27-day, to be fair, post-general report was due December 2nd to be filed in our office, and that didn't give us a lot of time to get the data and do an analysis off of that. So we recognize that. We commented on that in our report, and I know I want to do that analysis. And then I believe it was reInvent Albany also said that the timing in the report didn't give us full data to do a full analysis. So we didn't want to do a partial analysis and have incorrect figures out there.
Sure.
That's something we certainly are going to look at.
So, as I understood it, as you were going through, these new lower limits on donations would apply to the PACs and the unions and the corporate donations. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So the people that have been getting most of their support that way really have to work harder in their districts to get some money if they want to campaign at the level that they're used to campaigning at.
Yeah. So before November 9th, 2022, if you ran for statewide office, governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, or comptroller, for the primary, the limit was $47,100.
Yeah.
And then same for the general. That's a considerable reduction on what a contributor can give to a committee. And then for state senate, the primary limit was $7,500, and the general limit was $11,800. And then the assembly primary was $4,700 and $4,700. So it dropped the limit down on what anyone could give to these committees. And in doing so, it makes the match of the $250 that much more considerable. You see it most in the assembly because a $250 contribution turns into $2,250. That's fantastic. That's almost $3,000. It's hard to go and ask someone for $3,000, an individual in your district for $3,000. But it just makes the worth of that resident more. And if you're giving someone money for their campaign, will you go out on election day? So there's that value too. If you're willing to give $10 to someone, are you willing to go to the polls? So it's an outreach. You have a conversation with someone. They go to a fundraiser. You see them in the community. It's a touch point, and maybe your message resonates. And then same with the other offices, though. So there was the decision, if you're running for a statewide office, do I ask an individual contributor in the state for $250, or do I ask them for $9,000? But nothing precludes the PAC, the corporation, the union, the other entity from giving them $9,000 or $5,000 or $3,000. They can still fundraise for that.
All right, I'm gonna pause and welcome questions again. Kathy Smith, Kim Byers, Marilyn, you got questions? We would love to hear from you. I found myself curious. Well, okay, first let me say I'm so happy to hear that you're going to require debates, because we've had pretty good luck in the past getting candidates to debate, but this year we did not manage to get a single debate in among our Senate and Assembly candidates in Rochester area.
So I might disappoint you here. The debate requirement is for the 4 statewide offices: governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and comptroller.
Oh, darn. You added on.
That, again, that would be legislature, and governor would have to make a change in law. And if any change in law, we will implement.
Okay, so now we know something else to ask our reps to suggest a change. Okay, that's great. I found myself wanting to see the data on our local delegation to see who participated and who didn't. And can you walk?
What I can. So I did not compile. I did not compile the counties around Rochester to find which assembly members, which senators ran. If you had a list of districts, I can pull that easily. Or if you just have counties you want me to look at and send to you, I can have that sent to you this week.
Well, I was actually wondering if you could show us where on your website a person can find that sort of thing. Is that something you can do off the cuff?
Yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing this presentation, and I'm going to pull up the website, and I'll share that in a minute. Okay, let's see if I can do this. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can navigate through this. Can you see our website okay?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so our website gives you, I'll just go through quickly. it tells you about the board when we have our meetings. You can also see here what payments we've made, who was selected for lottery, and then if you're looking for employment. The law and the regulations are here. This is where you would go to see people in your delegation. I'll go back in a moment. This is our end of cycle report. And then if you're looking for training, if anyone's looking for information on how to register a committee, what they have to do, or they're unhappy about what they think could be a violation of law, this is where you go. So for public, let's make this bigger, public disclosure, and you would scroll down. It goes to the state boards, public reporting system. It might take a moment.
Yep, that's okay.
So we did infrastructure work over the weekend, and I know they're doing some tonight after 5. Oh, I knew. So they took down a site. I was hoping it wouldn't impact.
Okay.
If we go here and view public reporting, it actually says public campaign finance candidate list. And it gives the list, and you can either pick, you'd pick 2024, and then you either pick Assembly or Senate, or you can pick the full list, and you can look at the districts. I'm going to try it one more time.
Yep.
And I apologize for the timing. This is after the election in the odd year in January, at the end of January, after the periodic is filed, is when we do our IT maintenance.
Yep, that makes sense.
So, well, this is what I'll do. So I apologize that didn't work. I'm going to send you this link tomorrow. And if there's any specific districts, I could send you that information, but I'll share with this link with you tomorrow.
Okay, sounds great.
And it's actually there, pcfb.ny.gov/public disclosure. I might be able to show, I don't believe I have, I think it's all through here. Let's try and see if I had the master list. No, I don't. So it'd all be through here.
Okay, that's fine.
I apologize, I couldn't give a demonstration live.
Yeah, yeah, that's no problem. Is there any discussion of New York funding campaigns for Congress?
That would be out of our jurisdiction. It's a state program. That'd be a federal program.
Yeah, I don't see that coming from the federal level. I just thought we could do our own candidates.
No, congressional candidates file with the Federal Election Commission and follow the federal rules.
I see. So that really isn't.
We have jurisdiction over state and county filers. And then, of course, New York City has a program. So their filers go through the New York City Campaign Finance Board.
Gotcha.
And there are not any other jurisdictions in New York State at this time, local county or city, that have public campaign finance. Suffolk had one. They were building one. And in 2023, the legislature switched, and as did the county executive, and they defunded the program.
Oh, interesting.
But to give an update, to give a current update on the program, State of the State came out last week. The executive budget proposal came out yesterday. We're fully funded on our budget request for both the public matching funds to disperse and the support of staff and services. The administration has been excellent at supporting the program and has given us all the support we needed without having to ask twice. It's been excellent. And I've been in state government 25 years, and the last 3 years, the budgets have really, the budget cycle has been excellent. They've been fully funded. And a lot of the credit goes to the advocacy groups that support the program and their outreach efforts. So we're very thankful for all the partnerships and the outreach and the support of the program through our first cycle and getting through our first cycle. Those relationships matter a lot to us, and they've been very helpful.
Okay, that's us. That makes me feel good about all the work we do. Okay. Kathy, are you sure you don't want to come on here with a question? There, I've enabled you to talk if you want to.
I think you might be muted on your side.
Yeah, she's muted, but I opened it up in case she wants to talk. All right. Well, I'm gonna thank you for putting together this nice presentation for us. I know you customized it to our needs, and we appreciate your time. And so I think with that, I'm gonna call us to a close.
Thank you for having me. I apologize that my camera did not work tonight. If you need any other presentations or any resources from the board, please contact me and we can connect.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you from all of us.
Thank you. Have a great night.